Clarification. It is an accusation by me. I can't prove that I can't prove, but I'm very convinced of it. Sola Scriptura 21 bought into somebody who's rabidly anti-Adventist, who doesn't think we went to the moon and thinks space is fake, thinks he's a theologian, and he doesn't even have a basic understanding of theology, who shouldn't even begin to think about criticizing other theologies when he doesn't even have his own theology. Chris Lucas, you bought that hook, line, and sinker because it was being taught in a context and discussion about how Ellen White is wrong. Now, I'm sorry. See, okay, so let me put it this way. Maybe there's someone who can defend it better, but everyone I hear talk about Jesus not rising on a day after the Sabbath, Sunday. To me, these are often people who are susceptible to really dumb arguments, conspiracies sort of thinking. I used to be more susceptible to that. And so I feel like I can see it happening when it's happening. That's just my experience, okay? That's how it looks to me. Because I used to be that way, and I'm still susceptible to it at times. So when I see people like that arguing for things like Jesus didn't really raise on the day after the Sabbath, to try to... This is like the thing a Sabbath keeper would want to be true, because it would undermine the whole premise of changing the Sabbath. So it's desirable. We want that to be true because it would totally undermine the whole argument for Sunday. But the Adventists don't fall for that. They shouldn't. Okay? Because the way that could be true is pretty substantially ridiculous. The idea that they didn't know what day Jesus rose on in the early church, and for other reasons too, it's just a conspiracy theory. It's stupid, based off of bad thinking. Oh, a lot of people didn't understand that the Sabbath thing was related to the Passover, therefore he didn't even raise on a Sunday. That doesn't equate. It's like, oh, NASA makes CGI pictures, therefore we didn't go to the moon. It's like that. It's dumb. One doesn't equal the other. It's like, oh, hey, your mom lied before, therefore I don't think you were born, because your mom's a liar. We know she's lied before. So that means she lied about giving birth to you. Therefore your mother didn't give birth to you. It's stupid, okay? So when I see people who argue and think that way in a context undermining Ellen White, you bought it hook, line, and sinker. You jumped all over it. Sola Scriptura 21. Sorry, but now I can't prove it, but to me that looks like somebody desperately trying to undermine Ellen White, and I see you argue about Daniel, and you don't have a really good grasp of everything historically, or a good grasp of what Adventists really believe. So I'm sorry, I don't think you came to the conclusion that Adventism was wrong in a really careful study. Oh, what do you know? It's all wrong. Now I admit that's not proof, it's an accusation, but I stand by it. I think you're susceptible to bad arguments because your desire is overly focused on undermining Ellen White when you shouldn't have that sort of... You're overly wanting to justify your own issues that you had for leaving the church. It wasn't based... You want to justify your decision and pretend like you're just fighting for the truth. And look, so... regarding the scapegoat thing, let me just say this. You're going to talk about how we believe Jesus removes the sins of the people, the goat for Yahweh. That's why we don't think the scapegoat is Jesus. Because when the high priest comes out of the temple, he's already removed the sins from the people. They're forgiven. So, if you're talking about... So, I don't know what sins you're exactly talking about. Are you talking about the Calvinist sins? The ones that God predetermined that we commit and it couldn't be otherwise? Are those the sins you're talking about? That you want to discuss? How God deals with those sins? Because I don't think those sins exist. I think that's a satanic lie. So which sins are you talking about that God's dealing with? The ones he made it so we had to commit and couldn't do otherwise? Or are you talking about some other sins, like the actual sins that exist in the world? Because I'd need to know which sins you're talking about. Because the ones that it appears to me that you believe in, I don't think exist. There are no sins that God determined that we had to commit and couldn't do otherwise. So you'd have to tell me which sins you want to discuss, the way God removes them from his creation. He removes them from the people by the sacrifice for Yahweh. That's how he removes the sins from the people to save them. But those aren't sins that God determined. So I need to know from you which sins you're talking about. The made-up ones that you believe in that are blasphemy against God? Or the sins that we commit when we go astray and follow after our own lust? Because I don't think I believe in any of the sins that you believe in. I think they're made-up garbage.